This is Mark R. Hassan, and welcome to a new edition of ArtScopeTO, the irregular, occasional arts podcast that differs from my regular film and film music-related podcasts for my review site, KQEK.com. December's show features the work of abstract painter Donna Wise, whose series Flights of Fancy is the featured exhibit at Toronto's Urban Gallery at 400 Queen Street East until Saturday, December 30th. I have to admit a strong attraction towards abstract art, in part because there's such a variety in translating ideas to traditional and mixed media canvases. Objects, colors, patterns, and hyperfixations remain key identifiers to specific artists and their favorite themes. And what's striking about Wise's work is the combination of order, elegance, and details. As you'll hear in the following excerpts from our conversation at the exhibition's launch, there are recurring motifs. But Wise's organization and isolation of specific components show a potent use of precision. I've included some snapshots of her large canvases from the launch this past Saturday at the editor's blog at KQEK.com. But let's move on to our first topic, which is Wise's realization as a student that abstract painting lay in the cards.
When I was at art school, I couldn't draw for the life of me. He kept putting me at the back of the class. And I was much older then, and the tears were coming down my face. I'm too big to be crying. I want to do this. I'm going to do this. He came down to one class, and he put sheets up in this room and gave me pails of primary color and put on Beethoven's Ninth Symphony and said, go for it. And I've never looked back.
It's interesting that Wise cites the power of music, and in examining her work, there is a palpable sense of rhythm within the patterns, the repetition and placement of those patterns, and the central images which resemble an active movement. Signs certain composers and music styles are important to the creative process.
Bach, cantatas, the war requiem, big music. I like big music, and it just gets me going. And it helps with the stroking of the painting. I don't know why. It just feeds what I'm doing. I don't worry about it. I never have a block. Every time I'm ready to do a series, I just keep going until it's finished.
Even if some of the stills featuring Wise's exhibition and standing admirers don't convey the size of the canvases themselves, the paintings simultaneously attract because of their detail, yet require taking several steps back to reframe the relationships between the patterns, the colors, and the canvas's imposing dimensions.
I used to have a studio at King and Dufferin where I could put out 10-foot, 12-foot paintings. I can't do that anymore. And I can't physically get down and paint them that way anymore. So this size is this now because that's how I can move around the studio and keep them all going. This is probably the largest. Well, I do have a 96-inch one. It really is all circles and dots, but it's just in the studio to remind me of what I can do.
The organization of patterns, movements, and colors are preordained in a methodology that's wholly logical to the final works, that could be characterized as orderly framed friezes of movement.
I have a playbook, and it's a sketch pad, and each painting has a page. And before I put drop a paint on that canvas, all the colors are on this page in the sketchbook, and I never alter them. And not all the colors in the show are on each painting. Each painting has its own set of colors. I will never add a color, and I will never change the tone of that color. It's done in stone, so it's like a playbook. Each day I go to the page and say, what's this? I'm up to the red now. I'll put the red on. Then I walk away from it. I go to the next one. This is maybe this color. I'll put that on. And that's how I work.
Wise's use of colors is very precise, but also playful, as evidenced by several works that feature frosty, iridescent colors. Not pastels, but light colors resembling cake frosting that's built up in textures which Wise says are deliberately crafted to compel touching.
Well, some of them have this ion in the paint that catch the light, and it's called interference paints, and they do catch the light and change. Now, I will sometimes go to Venetian colors, go to art books and pull up Venetian colors for a certain time period, or I'll go to a Russian time, like 1920s and the Russian painting, or go back to Dutch painting in the 16th century, and I look at those color pages over and over again, and then I create these colors.
The patterns and forms are unique because they seem to transgress between geometric, organic imprints and whole forms uncharacteristic of brushstrokes.
Yes, I do. I use all kinds of things. I use sponges, weird-looking sponges. I use knives. I use spoons. I use rollers. I use garbage cans to get these big circles, and sieves or cups or anything like that. I can't draw. I have to rely on something else to give me that.
Among the most recurring motifs are circles, which can appear as reductive patterns or as gyrating wheels.
Sometimes when I go into circles, it reminds me of life, humanity, how we all have to connect, humanity and nature, living. The circle of life is a very constant in my paintings. Not always, but you'll find it there. You might even just find it in dots, but they'll still be circles.
In their most intricate formations, the circles also resemble mandalas, which are often layered on top of each other.
In a way it is, yes. At the time when I was painting it, I just felt very inspired with this feeling that what was going on out in the greater world was pretty awful. So I come back into the studio and say, we have to work at being kinder to each other, and maybe we have to think of living in the community and being kinder to our community.
Wise's isolation of primary colors also extends to the canvas backgrounds, which offer deeper contrast when black or blue, or gently support the creamier versions of her patterns. But perhaps the most striking features circular patterns over a black background, and in between lies a middle layer from which blue waves add a three-dimensional quality. I personally call it a trinitron blue, partly because it radiates within the spectrum of electrified dark blue, violet, and pastel blue found in saturated analog video. But perhaps that's what makes her work so attractive. With each work featuring meticulously choreographed and assigned sets of colors, one's favorite may be subjective, but it doesn't lessen the impact of other variations. Flights of Fancy by Toronto-based Donna Wise is exhibited at the Urban Gallery at 400 Queen Street East until Saturday, December 30th. Special thanks to Donna Wise for her time during a packed launch, and Urban Gallery manager Calvin Hambrook and curator Alan Sugar. Further examples of Donna Wise's gorgeous work is available at donnawiseart.com. Thanks to Glenda Fordham at Fordham PI for facilitating the interview, and visit fordhampr.ca for more stills and video of Wise's work. Prior editions of ArtScopeTO and KQEK.com's podcasts are available on the same iTunes, Google Play, Libsyn, and YouTube channels. Coming next, an interview with Peter Rothman on the publication of Dear Gwelda, the death and life of pioneering Canadian filmmaker Julian Rothman, the innovative producer-director best known for crafting Canada's first feature-length horror and 3D film, The Mask. Lastly, the editing and mixing services used to create this podcast are also available for hire. For further information, please visit mondomark.com or email audioservices@mondomark.com. This podcast is copyrighted 2017 by Mark R. Hassan. All rights reserved.